we've had higher viewed shows, but I don't know that we've had a more commented on show than the show we did about how to talk to your child's coach if you have a problem. Well, that day we talked to a league administrator. Today, we're going to talk to an actual coach and get their opinion. It's going to be quite interesting, so stay tuned to Clubhouse Gas. We're lucky enough to be joined again by our friend Brent McGuire. Brent, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Casey.
I want to talk to you a little bit today about a show that we just did. We had a huge response. I mean, I'm still surprised by the response we got, and most of it was from league administrators. And the show was about how to talk to your child's coach if you have a problem, if there's something that they do that you disagree with. And you, as a successful high school baseball coach, I'd like to hear from you your opinion on that. So I've got a kid who plays for you, and you've done something, I don't know what it is, doesn't really matter, that I'm not happy about. And let's say I'm livid. I'm furious. Where do I go from taking my anger into making it something productive?
Unfortunately, this happens a lot in all arenas of sports, whether it's in Little League, high school, college, and beyond. It's just part of the territory that you have to deal with sometimes. It's the most uncomfortable thing you have to do, but it's just part of it. And I think there are several keys to being able to mutually come together to solve a problem if there is one. Number one is, as a coach, on day one, after the team has been selected, I'm going to have a parent meeting with my group of parents. And by doing that, I'm laying the groundwork and the framework for them. And hopefully they'll be respectful of that. And within that parent meeting, I'm going to address the situation where if a player needs to talk to me, have that open door policy. Yes, we'll do that. However, I'm going to ask that let's not talk before a baseball game or a softball game, and let's not talk immediately afterwards. It's too emotional. I've been in a tough ball game. The parent has been on the other side of the fence, maybe a little unhappy because his or her daughter's not playing, so it's just not a real good time to talk.
Right.
So what I would recommend is the next day, have the parent email or phone call the coach and just say, Coach, do you have a little bit of time where we can talk? And more than 90% of the time, a head coach is going to say, absolutely. We'll be glad to talk to you about whatever the situation may be. I think by then there's a little cooling off time. We're more of in an adult situation where we're in a controlled environment. We'll be able to talk about whatever the problem is and work it out, hopefully.
And you can do that without the child being present, as opposed to doing it at the ball field in front of your child and everyone else's.
You can make an ugly scene, say, if you were to be confronted by a parent perhaps during or right after a ball game when everybody's still a little heated. So the recommendation is let's let it cool off for about 24 hours and we'll talk tomorrow.
I was lucky enough to have parents who abided by, as they say, the 24-hour rule when they were upset. And I very rarely even knew when my parents were upset about something, but I played with a bunch of kids whose parents would just get bent out of shape, and they would yell and raise Cain, and I used to be embarrassed for my friend. I used to think, man, I'm so glad that my parent doesn't act this way in front of my friends. It was extremely embarrassing. So you've waited 24 hours. You've made a phone call to set up an appointment.
Right.
How do you approach the coach? In what manner how do you address your issue to make sure that it's not confrontational and you get something positive accomplished?
Well, from a parent standpoint, if I were approaching a coach, as I mentioned, I'd give him a call and we'd just set up a time where I could come to his office and visit, and I'd just say to him, Coach, whatever the situation is, I'd just like to address it with you. If it's playing time, which usually is the number one request of a parent, is why is my son or daughter not playing? Well, then we're going to talk about the reasons as to why they're not playing or as much. Keeping in mind that coaches are with players 15 hours a week on the field, and we're seeing what they're doing day in and day out. And we have a pretty good gauge on what's going on with them in comparison to other players that they're maybe competing against at that position. So I can bring that forward to that parent and just kind of lay it out as to the reason why they're maybe not playing that much. Generally, that's the number one topic as to why a parent would like to talk to you as a head coach.
Do you find that the child has a better perspective than the parent most of the time on what's going on?
I think parents should discuss it with their child prior to the parent coming to meet with the coach. A lot of times there's a communication gap between the player and the parent. But if those two talk about it that evening before the meeting and maybe they get on the same page, now things might be resolved a little quicker if needed.
Do you sit down with your players who, let's say, you're carrying 15 ball players and you've got two second string infielders who don't play a lot and a second string outfielder that doesn't play a lot? Do you sit down with those guys or girls and say, this is the reason that you're not starting, and these are the things that you can do to get better and get yourself in the starting lineup, and this is the plan we're going to put you on? Is that something that you do as a coach?
Absolutely. You want to be in good communication terms with all the players. If not, that's when you have a lot of dissension and a lot of cliques that might form on a team. So periodically, we're going to meet with our players. We're going to meet with them at the beginning of the season and kind of give them a perception of where they are in terms of our vision for them playing. Are they a starter? Are they going to be a backup? Are they a role player? We're going to kind of let them know what we see for them at the beginning of the season. Now, we're also telling them, hey, if you're a second stringer, you go and compete for that job and you push that first stringer as hard as you can to win out and become the first string ball player. So we use that as a motivation tactic too, and it works a lot of times. And then periodically throughout the season, we'll meet with the players individually, let them know where they stand. Are they making progress? Are they declining a little bit? Are they going to be playing a lot, or are they just going to be a role player primarily? So the key is communicating with your ball player, letting them know where they stand.
And I think that's the key statement. Even in the workplace, it's important for you with your boss to know where you stand. And if you know where you stand on a ball team or in the workplace or even in your family, it helps you develop into your role and then if you don't like that role, to get out of it. I think if a lot of times with ball players, they get into their mindset, well, I'm just a second string ball player, it's just the way I am, and no one bothers to sit down and say, if you can do A, B, and C, that's not going to be your role anymore. You can move on to this level, and I think it will probably help you have a better team.
Absolutely.
And have a closer knit unit.
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of great things. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
As
sir.
always, Brent McGuire. That's going to do it for us today. I hope you got something out of today's episode. If you want to comment on it, go to our message boards and let us know what you think. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on a brand new Clubhouse Gas.